Well, happy Friday, everybody. Cheers. It's Ivory Ecker and Jody O'Malley. We were both whistleblowers of Project Veritas.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're going to talk about the RFK Jr. drama before we get into your latest. She was the HHS whistleblower. She brought forth undercover video for what was happening in the hospitals in the pandemic. But anyway, it's really interesting in regards to RFK Jr.
Yes.
That his own political party is trashing him and his opposing political party is propping him up.
Yeah, it's super interesting, right? Like that. And I love how he is just calling them out and talking to them straight. As I say, man to man, instead of like as a political figure.
Okay, so he just testified before the weaponization of the federal government committee in Congress yesterday, and Democrats just ripped him apart. Republicans thought he was wonderful. Anyway, he actually had some great things to say in his opening remarks, so I'm going to play that.
When I gave my speech, my announcement speech in Boston 2 months ago, YouTube, I talked about all those issues. I focused on grocery. I focused on the fact that working class people can no longer afford to live in this country. I talked about inflation, all the issues that deeply concern you, and that you've devoted your career to alleviating those issues. 5 minutes into my speech, when I was talking about Paul Revere, YouTube deplatformed me. I didn't talk about this in that speech. I didn't talk about anything that was a verboten subject. I just was talking about my campaign and things, the conversation that we ought to be having with each other as Americans. But I was shut down, and that is why the First Amendment's important. Debate, congenial, respectful debate is the fertilizer, it's the water, it's the sunlight for our democracy. We need to be talking to each other. Now, this is a letter that many of you signed, many of my fellow Democrats. I've spent my life in this party. I've devoted my life to the values of this party. 102 people signed this. This itself is evidence of the problem that this hearing was convened to address. This is an attempt to censor a censorship hearing. The charges in this, and by the way, censorship is antithetical to our party. It was appalling to my father, to my uncle, to FDR, to Harry Truman, to Thomas Jefferson, as the chairman referred to. It is the basis for democracy. It sets us apart from all of the previous forms of government.
So he mentions these former Democrats in history who would be appalled at the Democratic Party right now. And he's not the first Democrat to talk about how much the Democratic Party has strayed to the left. And now many former Democrats feel like they align more with Republicans. And looking at your comment section, Carrie says that he's upsetting the apple cart of the Communist Democratic Party, and he should just switch parties. This ain't his daddy's Democrat Party. It'll be really interesting if he gets the nomination, which I don't know how Joe Biden would beat him. Joe is so freaking unpopular. He's never been popular.
Right.
But, if he ran against Trump, because so many Republicans actually like RFK Jr.
Yeah. I think what we're finding out in America is that, most of us agree on a lot of issues, right? It's not as divisive as they make it out to be in the media. And when it all comes down to it, most people are middle of the road. They call that the Libertarian Party, right? Kind of, do away with big government. And it seems like Kennedy wants to do away with big government. And I applaud that.
Totally. So I'm going to show how his own party smeared and defamed and really lied about him in that testimony yesterday. Real quick, shout out to the sponsor of my coverage. A surging national debt is bullish for gold. The debt ceiling drama ended With the nominal budget cuts and a shiny new credit card with no limit for the federal government. Literally, they have no limit on spending right now. The Bank of America senior analyst recently told the Wall Street Journal, big stock market rally to be followed by a big collapse. Are you prepared to protect your retirement savings for at least another year in the current administration? The time for gold is here. Demand is soaring. Let National Gold Group show you options for investing in precious metals like gold and silver in our retirement accounts and for direct delivery. Take advantage of the best deal in precious metals. Mention my channel, Ivory Hecker, and pay no fees when you roll over your IRA and invest your IRA or 401k in physical gold and silver. Qualified accounts will receive our lifetime fee waiver on rollovers through 2023. You can call 888-617-5927. Get a free investor guide today. National Gold Group is a Consumer Affairs top-rated gold IRA dealer. Phone number is in my description, guys. 888-617-5927. Add the power of gold to your portfolio. Remember, there's always a risk of loss, and past performance is not indicative of future results. Okay, guys. Let's break down how the Democrats actually really threw a nasty jab at their own guy, RFK Jr. Stacey Plaskett, she is a non-voting delegate from the U.S. Virgin Islands, but she's in Congress, and she's the top Democrat in the Weaponization of Government Committee, which was formed by Republicans. So here's some of what she said to RFK Jr. after he made that opening statement yesterday.
Why would the Republican leadership and the committee majority give a hearing and a platform to the witnesses today, specifically to Mr. Kennedy, a man who has recently claimed that COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and Black people? The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. And before that, in his film, Medical Racism, The New Apartheid, that film stated that COVID do not work for Black children because of their, quote, kick-ass kind of immune system, that hyper, superhuman, subhuman kind of language. He also said, even in Hitler's Germany, you could cross the Alps to Switzerland. You could hide in an attic like Anne Frank did, to imply Jews in Nazi Germany had more freedoms than uneducated Americans during the pandemic.
Ooh, okay. So I was actually at his speech when he talked about crossing the Alps in Nazi Germany. That was a speech. I was covering that speech in DC back in January of last year, I believe it was. That big anti-mandate march.
Okay.
And he spoke on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and talked about even in Hitler's Germany, you could cross the Alps and hide out or hide in an attic, but things are different. Now, what he was actually referring to was not this new pharmaceutical, but something that Bill Gates has been investing in called, I'll show it right now, Earth Now. Bill Gates-backed startup Earth Now will provide real-time video of almost anywhere on the planet. Satellite video is going to be surveilling all humans live thanks to Bill Gates funding. And that's what he's saying is that, you know, the elites will have their eyes on you. There's nowhere to hide. You're crossing the Alps. They're watching you from Earth Now satellites.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what he was actually referencing that. And she kind of took that out of context.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think he is tying it in with the pharmaceuticals and saying that going forward, if you don't get the pharmaceutical that Bill Gates wants you to, he'll track where you're going,
right,
and take you down.
Absolutely. That's their plan.
So, but let's back up to what else she accused him of, which was talking about the pandemic illnesses being targeted towards certain races. Now, this is something he discussed at a dinner last week, and we're going to play his soundbite. RFK Jr. actually said, he was saying at the dinner, well, there's studies out there who say this, and then he goes into what the studies say. So here it is.
The argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to are because of the structure of the genetic structure, genetic differentials among different races of the receptors of the ACE2 receptor. Is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. But we don't know whether it was deliberately targeted that or not. But there are papers out there that show the racial and ethnic differential impact to that. We do know that the Chinese are spending hundreds of millions of dollars developing ethnic bioweapons, and we are developing ethnic bioweapons. That's what all those labs in the Ukraine are about. They're collecting Russian DNA. They're collecting Chinese DNA.
Ethnic bioweapons? He said the Ukraine labs are actually about ethnic bioweapons.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, for me, as a nurse in a federal hospital for the Native Americans, they lost 7 years off of their lifespan in 2 years. 7 years
pandemic.
Just from the pandemic.
So there were more natives dying than other people.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. Who was at risk? It was the elderly. And like Bobby Kennedy just said, with the development of the ACE2 receptors, that's why our children weren't affected, because their ACE2 receptors weren't developed. So if you look at it in our government, and where does most of the money is spent? It's spent on Social Security and spent on Native Americans. So if you were going to target, and I'm not saying they necessarily did, but as a critical thinker, right, that actually sees this, you know, if you were going to target populations, those would be the two that our government spends the most money on. I'm just saying.
Natives and black people?
Yes.
And he said white people are being targeted too. And so the members of Congress, Ms. Plaskett, who's black herself, she took that as that was anti-Semitic. So now the Democrats are, as of last week, ever since they heard that soundbite at the dinner, they're just freaking out about how Bobby Kennedy is a anti-Semite, because I guess what he said there implies that Jews got together with the Chinese to take out the other races, so that Jews are the bad guys.
Yeah, I think it was totally taken out of context. I mean, you have to hear the whole thing, right?
Yeah, well, if you heard the beginning, he said, you know, there's studies, like he was just referencing a study.
There's an argument that it is ethnically.
There's an argument that, and he was referencing previously to that the argument comes from the study, looking at which races were hit the hardest by this. Mm-hmm. But although the Chinese, when the pandemic first started, weren't Chinese like filming piles of bodies because so many Chinese were dying. So
it was propaganda, in my opinion. Total propaganda. People were not dropping dead in the street. We weren't pulling bodies out of homes. The prisons were fine. Our homeless shelters were fine. People died in the hospital, period, point blank. That's where they died.
And many believe it's hospital murder now. If you follow my uncensored channel, Unified, the new uncensored streaming platform, linked down below, I have a pretty powerful interview with the father of a 19-year-old who died in the hospital in the pandemic, and he's moving this lawsuit ahead in the courts that's going to set precedent for hospital murder. And at first he was like, I think it was negligence, but when he looked closely, in the day before his daughter died, they gave her a specific set of drugs that are historically used for euthanasia.
Well, and that's true. I mean, I'm working with the organization 1000widows.org. And the reason is because these widows got together, and they actually was a couple widows that met on a plane, just started talking about how the deaths of their loved ones. And then once they started talking, and that's why censorship, we cannot censor people. People cannot be afraid to talk because they're going to risk losing family members or friends or their job, because through conversation is how things are developed, right? And we're able to have a discourse and start talking. And that's what happened. Thousand Widows grew tremendously. They noticed that there were 27 commonalities of what happened in the hospitals. And that's part of me as a whistleblower. That we completely violated all ethical principles and our evidence-based protocols. And we listened to what the government had to say, and people were to fall in lockstep and do that. Basically, we removed the advocate from the bedside. So you didn't have somebody, whether asymptomatic or not, if they tested positive, they were in isolation in a room, which were able to lower standards of care. The nurses didn't have to go in and chart as much. Physicians stopped going in and doing their assessment. And they would literally write in these notes, report received from nurse due to limiting COVID exposure. The pharmacist stopped going in the room and doing their medication reconciliation form. The nurses did it. I actually got an award from the pharmacist saying, "Thank you for doing my job for me."
Oh my word.
I mean, yes.
So she brought an undercover camera and
my cell phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Then Project Veritas put out her story at what she was witnessing at this federal hospital, and your story was so compelling. It may have been the most viewed story on Project Veritas's YouTube. It has more than 5 million views, and I've linked her story down below. And now she just has a new book out. Jody O'Malley, Rare Courage, Standing for Right When You're Surrounded by Wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that details, I feel like this book could speak to anybody, and I wrote it from my perspective from the beginning. I took off my affiliation with my federal hospital, and I started just talking about science and ethics. And so the book is guided by my Facebook post or Instagram post, and then I told you like what my thinking was, which was essentially guided by my ethical principles and the oath that I took, as well as my faith in God and seeing the signs of the times that we're living in.
Wow. So I linked Jody's website down below if you want to look at that and look at her book, get her book, Support a Brave Whistleblower. We need more people like Jody. Okay, so when RFK Jr., he testified, it was the Republicans who asked him to testify at this government weaponization hearing because they wanted his testimony to highlight what appears to be a growing trend by our own White House of censorship, which is highly illegal according to the First Amendment. And RFK Jr. has definitely been censored. So you heard him talk about how 5 minutes into announcing his run for presidency, YouTube wipes him out. And so, they're trying to connect the dots that the White House told YouTube to get rid of RFK Jr. He also said that 2 days after Joe Biden became president, he also started to censor RFK Jr. at that time as well. And now RFK Jr. is going to be his biggest rival. So,
I mean, you could even talk about, your story in the news. You couldn't report.
Right.
Censorship
so
is awful.
I was trying to figure out what the censorship, where it was coming from with my bosses, because in a 9-year corporate news career, having worked at Fox, and prior to that, NBC affiliates, never in my history had something like this happened where it's this blanket censorship of like, well, that is a fact, but we can't report certain facts right now. We must hide certain facts. In fact, you'll get fired if you do talk about those facts on any platform. They literally told me, not just on TV, but if you mention this fact on social media, you're fired. And so it was very unprecedented. And I was like, is the government involved? Is the government trying to tell Fox or, forcing Fox or coercing them or saying, we're not going to go easy on you or something. And so that's been the difficulty in many areas, is figuring out, is the government directly impacting this, or who is impacting the censorship? And we have White House emails between Facebook and Twitter have surfaced that do show it was the government telling them to do that.
Yeah, and you can look at even RFK's book, The Real Anthony Fauci. You know, that book details a lot of information on the weaponization of, I mean, we had the pharmacy, mainstream media, universities. You know, it's like these globalists, they control the whole narrative, all of it. And, you know, when he talks about, you know, the First Amendment is for speech that is not comfortable. Right? That's what it's supposed to protect. And I completely agree with it.
Right. You're right to say something that I disagree with. And he talked about how the federal government came up with a new term when they accused him in his speech. The term is It's not malinformation.
Malinformation.
It's called malinformation. Truthful information that the government doesn't approve of. So this is not good. This is not American. I believe this is an impeachable offense, straight up.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, if you're the president and you're throwing the First Amendment away, which is law, I think you should be impeached for that.
I don't understand how he's still in office. I truly don't. I mean, God.
Yikes. Okay, so when RFK Jr. was announcing his run for presidency, what he was talking about in that speech that YouTube abruptly deplatformed after 5 minutes was rising grocery prices. Can we not refer to rising grocery prices anymore? So I had to look them up, you guys. Check this out. So Jody is from the Phoenix area, and that is one of the cities with the highest grocery prices right now.
Go figure.
So 18 cities where grocery prices have skyrocketed. Portland, Oregon, cost of eggs up 54%. In Nashville, they're up 64%. Sacramento, eggs are up 33%. Chicken, a pound of chicken is up 85%. San Antonio, similar story in San Antonio. Fort Worth, Atlanta, 79% jump in the price of eggs. Detroit, 91% jump. Dallas, Charlotte, Mesa, Arizona, Wichita, Kansas, Miami, Austin, Texas, 58% rise in the cost of a pound of chicken. Kansas City, and there you are, Phoenix, with a 95% rise in the cost of eggs in Phoenix, Arizona.
I just went to go get lunch meat for the first time, and bologna was $10 a pound. Bologna.
Oh my word.
I was like, I can't even get bologna.
This is brutal. Las Vegas is 170% increase in the cost of eggs. Why do you guys think I have chickens now?
I'm looking at them.
Number one is Indianapolis. They have a 71% jump in the price of chicken, 127% rise in eggs. So he was talking about, this is outrageous. This is what the current Democrat president is doing. And so RFK Jr. wants to fix the economy and everything else. And that is what YouTube censored. Couldn't talk about looking at your comments. You couldn't talk about the price of groceries on YouTube anymore. What is going? So pray for my YouTube because I just talked about it.
Oh wow.
Okay, so the Republicans were big fans of RFK Jr. I'll play for you a little bit of what they said here.
It's deafening. You could cut it with a knife. They are at the same time denying that censorship is occurring, but suggesting that there's more material that needs to be censored. This is a hearing on censorship that began with an effort, with a formal motion from the other side of the aisle to censor Mr. Kennedy. They do not want him to speak, yet that is the topic of this hearing. They have kept him from speaking.
They're like, we're not censoring, but we don't want him to speak. Yeah, it was 102 Democrats who wrote that letter that he held up saying, don't let Kennedy speak. before Congress.
And I like how he called him out and said, every single person on here knows that I'm not a racist, but yet they signed that letter.
Right. He was saying, you know, while I'm under oath, I've never been racist before. But they're saying his talk that the virus might impact certain races more is racist. So it's wild. So that is the case of Kennedy, RFK Jr. I wonder, what do you guys think if he ran against Trump? Who do you think would win? Because Democrat voters definitely hate Trump, but Republican voters like RFK Jr. So RFK Jr. is able to pull those across the aisle votes, but Trump, not so much. Although I will say that Trump did get Democrat voters in 2016. I think both 2016 or 2020 especially. I think Trump got a lot of Democrat voters in 2020.
Yeah.
So they both get across the aisle votes.
Well, I think where Trump's lacking right now is, you know, that he's still promoting whatever this is. Right?
Oh, the pharmaceutical.
So, and
he's
won't.
a fan of it. He will not say that.
He will not come out and say, I got bad advice, which he got bad advice.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that, I think that single-handedly is gonna hurt him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You said, did the chickens lay any eggs yet? They've been laying tons of eggs. I need to post another update on my YouTube. And some weird things are happening with their eggs, but I don't want to give it away. wait for my YouTube. Hit subscribe so you can find out the strange thing that happened with the chicken eggs. Coming soon. Okay, speaking of Trump, he announced this week that he, after watching the new movie Sound of Freedom, he will institute the death penalty against child traffickers if he becomes president again. Okay, that's a bold statement. I honestly, I really don't think his base of supporters on the Republican side that are aware. I mean, let's talk about it. Like, didn't stop infection, didn't stop transmission, right? I mean, it didn't work. Right. And so if he doesn't come out, he's going to lose that. And everybody that I'm talking to, you know, they're liking what Bobby is saying right now. So, you know, Democrats historically are very bad for the economy. So that concerns me about RFK Jr. I would need to know more about, you know, what is your economic policy? Because we know for fact with Trump that he improved the economy greatly. My main thing with electing presidents is what's going to happen to the economy. Mm-hmm. And our borders. I literally do not care about your social life, your personal life, or what my president's social life and personal life is. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen to my money and everyone's money? Mm-hmm. And national security is a huge thing now for sure. Yeah. But I think RFK Jr. has talked and made it clear about that. But so I would vote for Trump again just because he already proved that he can dramatically help the economy. Now he's going to be even more up to speed on how to be president because he already has 4 years under his belt. Nobody else running has 4 years under their belt, except Joe Biden, almost 4 years, who's proven he doesn't know how to do this. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if he came out and he addressed this, you know, pharmaceutical, which that's why I like hearing what, you know, RFK is saying, is because he is calling out, you know, the weaponization of, you know, or the, you know, the collusion essentially with all forms of media, social media, pharmacy, universities, all of it. I mean, our nursing schools are still requiring it. Wow. We had a 9 million shortage of nurses prior to 2020. And then we were heroes deemed by the WHO. The WHO, did you know that 2020 was the year of the nurse and the midwife? Oh, no. Yeah. And so we were heroes for a while until we didn't want that. We wanted to exercise our own autonomy and, you know, and not participate in an experiment. And now we're dispensable. And it's nuts. So Trump, you know, needs to address that fact because people are well aware of
the failed pharmaceutical. And it's harming people. So there's that too.
The other concern I have with Democrats is their over obsession with the climate and tanking the economy in order to help the climate.
Yeah.
When, you know, like, I guess caring about the environment is nice, but to force every human to forfeit all of the money they've worked hard for some, you know, program that's supposed to fix our temperatures.
Well, I think for me, you know, with the climate change and stuff, I heard Charlie Kirk talk with Jack Hibbs about this, and he said it brilliantly. He said the globalists don't believe in a God. They think they're God, right? And so they're trying to play God. And I don't see RFK that far to that side. You know, he has talked about his faith, and obviously we are stewards of the earth, and we should be responsible, and we should start thinking about those types of things. And, you know, but as far as, I just don't see him that far. And honestly, we say the Democrat Party, but the Democrat Party, what it is now, is historically not what it was. Right. I think it's changed a lot. I just
They
interviewed.
used to be the big First Amendment advocates.
Right.
Now they're the biggest advocates of Hitler-esque censorship.
Right. I actually just interviewed Dr. Pierre Corey for his new book that just came out. And he told me, he goes, I was an avid New York Times reader every day.
And a Democrat. He was definitely
a Democrat. And he said now, you know, he's completely the opposite. And so with the people that didn't lose their critical thinking and allow fear to guide their thinking, that they see what's happened, and a lot of them have left that party. So
in regards to climate change, have you heard of the birth strikers?
No.
These women are refusing to have children until we fix climate change. Which, if enough of them do that, that will fix the issue. Everyone who believes in it will be dead because they're not reproducing, right? But here it is. The Guardian covered birth strikers meet the women who refuse to have children until climate change ends. A movement of women have decided not to procreate in response to the coming climate breakdown and civilization collapse. Will their protest be a catalyst for change? It says here, as soon as Blythe Pepino got together with her partner Joshua 2 years ago, she felt this overwhelming urge to create a family with him. She says, I think it was the 5th day of having met him. I said, I got to meet your parents. He was like, you're mad. Then late last year, she attended a lecture held by the direct action group Extinction Rebellion, which set out starkly the catastrophic reality of the climate change. That galvanized Pepino, an activist and musician, to do research of her own and eventually to have a series of sad conversations with Joshua.
That's not Joshua. That's Blythe.
That's her. That's her.
Oh,
exactly.
Okay.
And so she realized other women were suffering in secret with the same dilemma, and that a lot of women have decided not to have children because of the climate. That, you know, a lot of people believe that the world is overpopulated, and that is what's causing temperatures to rise.
Or cow farts.
They think that contributes, but that's a part of overpopulation of the globe, because that much more people are eating beef. But also the emission of CO2, which is what we breathe out. You know, we breathe in oxygen, our bodies convert it to CO2, and we breathe it out. So their thought is, if we can delete more humans, there'll be less people breathing out CO2. Not only that, but, you know, our technology, I guess, puts out CO2 as well.
Okay.
And so, you know, that goes on along with this depopulation agenda.
Yeah, I think, you know, for me, you know, my faith is pretty strong in having a relationship with, you know, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you know, our Bible that we refer to, and God's in control of all of this. right? That's how I look at it. God is in
Absolutely.
control, and however, we're supposed to occupy until he returns and procreate, male and female.
I looked at, last year when all those cows died on a ranch, I looked up previous temperatures throughout the last century in that area, and temperatures had been much, much higher. I think it was Kansas where that happened, and temps, it was like 104 or something, but it had been up to 112 many times. So, talking way back in the century. So if in the early 20th century, temperatures were that high and now they're lower, what's going on? But the media propaganda is very easy to say, like, it's hot outside right now. Like this summer, we're having several triple digit days in Texas. That's not very common. Something's weird. It must be climate change,
Right. But I was just in Alaska, and their summer didn't start until July, and it normally starts in June. So there's that.
Oh, so it was colder up there.
Well, way cold. It was so cold in June.
Well, that's why they changed the term global warming to climate change, because now they can blame that on climate change too.
Then I also heard that their mascot of global warming was the polar bear, and the polar bears are thriving. So I don't know.
Oh, so this guy broke it down. He broke down how the climate works in this little Instagram reel. This Australian man did the math. Here it is.
I did as the government asked, and I looked at the science when it came to climate change, and this is what I found. According to government figures, Australia is producing 499 million metric tonnes of carbon dioxide per year. But what I also found is that one mature tree will absorb 48 pounds or 21.77 kilograms of carbon dioxide per year. And Australia currently has 24 billion standard-sized trees, absorbing 453 million metric tonnes of carbon dioxide per year. And that's just trees. Doesn't include any other plant life, and particularly doesn't include mangroves. And mangroves will absorb 50 times more carbon dioxide per year than a standard-sized tree. So why is the government hell-bent on cutting down trees in order to install solar farms when it seems quite obvious from the science that nature has already provided the solution to the problem?
Who's nature? God. Right?
So he just refreshed us on what we learned in elementary school.
Right.
Plants
Right.
breathe in CO2 and breathe out oxygen. Humans breathe in oxygen, breathe out CO2.
Yep.
So the more humans there are, the more air we're giving to the plants to breathe so that the plants can grow better. And it's this beautiful harmony.
It is. It's harmony. It's so wild. It's crazy where we're at in society today. It really is. It just is so mind-blowing.
It is. I'm looking at your comment section. Thanks for everyone who is tuning in. Trees need CO2 to stay alive. Yeah, if we're deleting CO2, we're hurting trees. The cows don't fart, they burp. Horses fart. Whatever, you know what? I don't.
It's like methane gas or something,
so
right?
Crazy. Well, that reminds me of what I just gave people a heads up on Amazon Prime Day that what Jeff Bezos is actually using, he got filthy rich off of Amazon, and now he's taking billions of dollars from all you Amazon shoppers, which, dude, I'm kind of addicted to Amazon too. It's hard to cut that addiction.
It's hard.
He's taking that money and he is putting it into programs to convince governments all around the world to penalize farmers for raising beef so that we can get rid of methane. And
how did he make all that money? Because they shut down all the mom and pop stores and they left open all these big box
that's true.
chains.
The government mandated people's small businesses to close.
Yeah.
But you'll be safe in Walmart. Now, that small shop that only fits 10 people, you'll definitely get the illness there. But if you go to Walmart where there's going to be 500 people,
Yep.
you'll be safe there.
Yeah.
And we're all like, oh, yeah, that makes sense because the government told us on our TV and we trust them so much. It's so crazy how mind numbed most people are, right?
It is. It is. And it's crazy when we go back to what RFK was talking about, like with Nazi Germany and stuff. I remember just researching that and, learning about it and being like, how could people do that? How could overnight your friends, the government says that these people are bad and they're sick and they must die. And they all believe them.
Yeah.
And then you saw it play out in 2020. Like literally my 10-year-old, I had taken him to go see, that movie. I can't think of it now. It was the one with a little boy and a rabbit, Jojo Rabbit. Rabbit. Have you ever seen it?
Never heard of it.
Oh, girl, you got to see it. It's so everybody needs to go see it. But my 10-year-old, we saw it a few months before COVID, and he said, "This is propaganda." And he recognized it at 10. And then another interesting thing is he goes, I always wondered what you would do. He goes, I remember sitting there in the movie theater and wondering what you would do. And he said, now I know. After blowing the whistle.
Wow.
Yeah. But, it really, so many people are just so comfortable these days and they don't like being uncomfortable. And, it's not my problem. I'm just going to deal with my immediate family or my household and take it as it comes. And we see what that means, what happened, taking it as it comes. So, Kennedy is right. Like censorship has no place in America. And even if you don't want to talk, you have to talk. We have to talk to one another.
That's the one first step you can do, like the small thing that you can do in your corner of the world is to just speak your own truth to the people who are around you, and when they tell you to do something or try to persuade you to be something that you're not, to do something that doesn't make sense. Just stand your ground, speak your truth. You know?
Have a conversation. You can do it in love and kindness, and righteous anger is okay. We're supposed to be upset when, the truth is not being told, right? Or when we feel like it's being violated, like it's our job to speak out. We're supposed to follow the truth, the life, and the way.
Yes. Okay. So I like to throw in some conspiracy theory stuff sometimes. Are you ready? Are you ready for this?
Okay.
My friend Ian Smith has posted a nice little conspiracy theory post. I'm going to bring it up. Right. Ian rocks.
We could do that.
Why do we need cell towers every 3 miles if the president could call the moon in 1969, man? He said, good morning, fellow conspiracy schizos. So why is that?
Why could he pick up like a landline phone and call the moon?
Why do I have those white 5G towers all over? Okay, my mom lives deep in the country of northern Wisconsin.
Okay.
And there's a big old white 5G tower, middle of the field. Like there's no civilization, but it's sitting right there near her house. Like they're everywhere.
Everywhere.
Why do we need that when that phone call in 1969 went so well? Let's look at that phone call. I have it right here, you guys. This was our amazing phone technology in between planets back in 1969.
Neil and Buzz, the President of the United States is in his office now and would like to say a few words to you. Over.
Over.
That would be an honor. Go ahead, Mr. President. This is Houston out.
Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made. I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you do. For every American, this has to be the proudest day of our lives. And for people all over the world, I am sure they too join with Americans in recognizing what an immense feat this is. Because of what you have done, the heavens have become a part of man's world. And as you talk to us from the sea of tranquility, it inspires us to redouble our efforts to bring peace and tranquility to earth. For one priceless moment in the whole history of man, all the people on this earth are truly one. One in their pride in what you have done, and one in our prayers that you will return safely to earth.
Jody,
You will return safely from the green screen.
dang it, man. I'm just, guys, if you know the technology they were using in 69 to do that crystal clear and, immediate phone call in between planets, let us know.
Listen, there's so many. I was like the typical American, right? Didn't really felt like my duty was served every 4 years when I voted,
Yeah.
and that was it. And I went about my merry life. But girl, the 2020 was like, what in the world is happening? Like, yeah, there's no way we were at the moon. There's no way. But okay, how about this? How come we haven't been back?
They accidentally lost the technology. The technology is, they're working on getting it back.
Right. But they could surveil every room up in the Alps. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing.
Mhm.
I did interview when I was with Fox here in Houston. I interviewed some NASA astronauts who said they are working on getting back to the moon. I believe when I talked to them, that was several years ago now. I think I interviewed them 2019, and they said that they were planning to get back to the moon by 2024. But that's next year now, so we'll see if that happens. Someone had a question for you, Jody. Has anything come from you coming forward? Are you gagged? Any news?
So no, I'm not gagged. I actually had a meeting to do mediation on November of last year, and I refused to mediate because my whole goal is to go in front of Congress and let people know what exactly was happening in the hospitals. And so that was my whole purpose. So that is moving forward. I have an EEOC complaint, the MSPB, OSPB, all these 3-letter agencies. This has been going on since December of 2021.
Wow.
And I actually had a EEOC intake application today for the first time, and that took them 8 months to get to me. So
EEOC, what does that stand for again?
Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Like you can't,
Like it was-
you can't be fired for the wrong reasons, which you
Correct.
were. You were.
Right. Yeah, they paid me actually for 15 months before, the federal judge essentially said to them in mediation, what are you going to do with her? Make a move. And so
Because you were a federal employee,
mhm,
and there's a law that protects federal whistleblowers. They
Correct.
can't just get fired.
right. Especially when I'm standing on ethical principles and the oath of my profession. And so after my story came out, I had to answer to more than a dozen complaints to the Arizona State Board of Nursing. Thankfully, they ordered me to undergo an ethics evaluation, and I was deemed ethical in my disclosures. So my job really didn't have a reason to fire me. I still have my license. So I'm not gagged. I refuse to be gagged. I was actually just offered another position somewhere, and I opted not to take it because I do have the show Nurses Out Loud, and that's on every podcast, iHeartRadio. And there's 5 of us brave nurses that came forward exposing the truth. So check us out. There's a new episode dropping 5 days a week.
Just search Nurses Out Loud on
Yep.
the podcast platform. Yeah,
Mhm.
she gets a lot of views or a lot of listens on there.
Yeah.
On podcasting platforms. By the way, I'm on podcasting too. Just search my name. All my YouTubes syndicate over to podcasting if you need to listen, just audio only.
Yeah. Subscribe so that you
and-
get alerts.
And Jody, even though she lives in Arizona, she's in Texas right now because she is participating in a charity event. I'm participating too, in which funds will be raised for those who were injured by the new pharmaceutical in the arm.
Mm-hmm.
So we're a lot of people speaking. You're going to speak, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to speak and play my guitar.
Yes.
A lot of music, and all the funds raised from going there are going towards those victims.
Yeah.
who are
React19.org is
There you
the
go.
organization.
React19.org.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn more about the event. It's on Saturday. Tomorrow, if you guys want to go, at the Montgomery County Fairgrounds, starting at like 12:30 or something.
Yeah, 12:30 to like 10 p.m. So that'll be fun. It's, pretty much mostly music. And speakers are going to be sprinkled in for like 30-minute segments. So it's not a boring event, and it's kid friendly, and you'll get to hear Ivory play. I get to hear her play live for the first time.
So my guitar's in the repair shop right now. I was like, I need to rehearse some songs. I used to play my guitar way more before I blew the whistle on Fox and went independent. Once the corruption started in the media, I kind of threw music by the wayside, but I was doing a lot with music prior to that. And then I did, so after I blew the whistle, I did drop another song, and and did a little bit, and then people started some rumors like, oh, now that Ivory blew the whistle, she's trying to be a musician. I'm like, no, I've been playing a guitar since I was a teenager, and I dropped, produced and released 4 singles
Right.
prior to this mess.
Prior to this, I was a hip hop dancer.
Were you?
Yeah, I was 50 pounds lighter. I did hip hop like twice a week.
Dang,
Yeah,
that's
girl.
awesome.
Like it really changed our life. So now we got to get our joy back.
That's what we were talking about. So we went golfing yesterday, and we're like, gosh, it's important to expose corruption, but it's gotten heavy, I'm like, I just want happiness,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we're trying to get our joy back for sure.
Yeah.
Let us know how you guys find joy. I'm looking at, you guys had a comment. Someone commented an explanation of how the president, here it is. President was on the phone with Houston, as you heard, and they relayed it through radio signals, allegedly. So Houston, aka NASA's located in Houston, where we're at. And so they're saying that the president actually phoned from the White House to NASA, and then NASA sent his phone call up through radio waves to the moon.
Okay.
And that all happened so quickly that you could hear back from the astronauts.
Like light years away or something.
From the astronauts are like, oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, put the president on,
Like our cell phone signals have a delay a lot of the time. Or Zoom has a delay, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. When I would do live shots on TV with Fox, we would actually use a cell phone signal to send my live feed to appear on TV.
Yeah.
And there was like a 3-second delay. And that's why a lot of times on TV, you see the anchor toss the reporter, and the reporter's just there like nodding their head with the mic, not talking,
Smiling.
because it's the delay. They're still hearing the anchor.
Uh-huh.
So in 2023, we still have delays, but there was like the same length or shorter delay back in 1969.
Okay.
We should have used radio signals all along if that's what actually works. Dang it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I'm still, I may just not be understanding the technology they used. I don't know. But I just have a lot of questions. I question who was the videographer on the moon who filmed, the landing and the first man's first step. I just have
Who set up production?
exactly
I didn't see them taking a selfie up there.
right. They weren't they weren't selfieing. So who the heck was actually filming? I just have a lot of questions. I don't
I think this is so funny because it's like we're able to just sit here and talk as we normally would. And maybe some of the things we don't say correctly, but we laugh about it. And that's like, I hope this gives people hope. I hope it gives them courage to actually have conversations and debate and, and then you can discover new things and not feel like, oh, well, I don't have all the facts. I don't have all the facts. I can't
Exactly.
talk.
Sometimes it's just asking questions. Like me, I'm saying, I do not have an answer about the moon. I'm just saying I have a lot of questions.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You said it was the aliens filming. Shut up. Oh man.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, the responses were way too quick. Something smells. Exactly. Great technology, but maybe they had the cell phone technology that we have right now. Maybe they had it back then, but they only used it for the government because government, they always have the best technology and they keep it secret to compete against Russia.
Mhm.
So who knows?
Well, and I think that too, if you go back and look at movies, right? Even the movies that were done years and years ago, decades ago, it's like how about the Jetsons? Let's talk about the Jetsons, right? If you can visualize it and imagine it, there's probably something out there. And I think personally, the government has a lot of technology that hasn't been released yet, And so to go back and say that, I just think there's a lot more than what we're actually seeing that's happening.
Yeah, I think you're right. So,
just looking at the comments.
This channel is so gross, but I can't stop watching. Good, keep watching.
Peace. Keep watching, brother or sister.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I don't know, but some of the astronauts who went up there, I did see interviews with the astronauts the astronauts acted really freaking weird and like couldn't say certain things. And then one of the astronauts is like, he's really old now and very outspoken about how it was all fake.
Oh yes, I have heard him talk. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I forget his name.
Yeah,
but I saw that.
I did see a documentary or something on that. Yeah, I where there's smoke, there's fire, and that's people need to not just take things at face value, what we've done before in the past. I mean, if these last 3 years haven't woke you up, then I really truly don't know what will.
Exactly. So who knows? I'm fine with not knowing and see what happens.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to act like I know it all. There's just a ton that I don't know.
That's right. Yeah.
So stay curious, everybody, and have a wonderful weekend. We're wrapping up our hour on truth bombs. Please drop a comment on what kind of technology. I need you to go to the comment section and tell me what kind of technology was actually used for the moon landing, and then why Republicans love RFK and Democrats hate him, even though he's a Democrat. Okay, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.